Now, I mentioned earlier that my guest today in the studio is someone who's not a hesitator to roll her own sleeves up and break new ground and venture into uncharted territory. Wendy Simpson's had a very long and distinguished career in business and joins us today. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Look, I mentioned some of those achievements, and it's good to do that. But where did it all begin?
Well, I think it began with me catching a vision that the way that we start life isn't necessarily the way we finish. I came from a very humble background, and really I was the first businesswoman that I'd have ever met.
Yes.
And so I had to catch a vision of what God wanted for me, bigger than what my circumstances, what my school teachers, and what a lot of society had told me was the role of women. So I'm so pleased that I am a Christian and that I was able to see a bigger world than the world that was being created around me for me.
Did society and the world create those limitations for many women, or how does it come about that that's the case?
Look, absolutely. I think there were all sorts of stories told to us. There were careers that were suggested to us. And the reality is that often if you're a pioneer, you are the first person that you've ever met who is even asking the questions that you want to ask. And so I found myself saying, am I the only person who's thinking like this? And so I had to look more broadly than the immediate circumstances that I was in. Otherwise, I wasn't able to find the answers to those questions I was asking.
So you've had some very senior roles in business, and as we've said, Victorian government have consulted with you and various things like that. Do you see much of your time now also about mentoring other women into places of influence?
Absolutely. I really think that one of the responsibilities of us all is that for those who much has been given, much is expected.
Yes.
And so very much I want to give back. And the reality is that I was really championing the cause of women and women leadership back in the 70s and 80s. And sadly, we still need a lot of people who are willing to give their time and effort to open up networks for women entrepreneurs, women leaders and young women. There's not enough people who are making it a part of their checklist every day to say, what can I do to make things a bit easier for a woman today? What doors can I open? What events can I include people in? I say to a lot of people, when you get an invitation, see if you can bring a bright young woman along with you. Open up your networks to those who are coming along behind you.
I suppose one of the questions I had in my mind was, are things easier now than they used to be? And I suppose what you're really saying is they are and they're not. There's still some doors to push down here, isn't there?
Correct. Yes, and I think the role models are so important for young women and for young men to see as well.
Yes.
And we need to see some men who are willing to open up their networks and to understand some of the issues that women are facing so that they can actually start to explain those issues to the circles that they mix in.
Now, tell us about Springboard, because I want to know about your involvement there and what it's all about.
Yes, so back in 2009, I was with my husband. We were trying to raise capital for our business. And I went to a conference in Shanghai and met Kay Koplowitz, who was one of the co-founders of Springboard in the US. So that started in the year 2000. And I said, it's really hard to raise investment capital if you're a woman in Australia. And she said, well, you need Springboard. And I said, great. How do I do that? She said, well, you can't because it's not in Australia. I said, well, we can soon fix that. Yeah. Why don't we bring Springboard to Australia? So Springboard is a program for women who want to scale their businesses and they need investment. So it's up to $1 million in investment capital.
Look, tell me a little bit then about how your faith influences all these different aspects of your life.
Yes, right from when I first started to think about what is the purpose of my life, I've always seen that God is the answer to giving me real information about what my life is and what it isn't. And so I think that it's a bit like going to work. If you're a painter, you don't turn up with a toothbrush. You know, you have a proper tool that you need, a proper paintbrush. And I think God's given us faith. He's given us all sorts of wonderful ways to influence the world. And when we're Christians, we take our faith everywhere we go. That's been really a hallmark of my life.
Not long ago, I was speaking about as small as a grain of mustard, you know, tremendous harvest. And you've had to do that in the world of men, haven't you, as well?
Yes, I have. I've been a pioneer. I was the first woman to run freight operations for TNT, the global freight company, and I was the first woman to be the Senior Vice President of Alcatel Asia Pacific, based in Shanghai, and I was the first Victorian Government Trade Commissioner as a woman based in Shanghai as well. So yes, many of those places have been, I found myself being the only woman in the room.
Well, we're very proud of you and the work that you're doing, and to know that you do it from the Christ perspective.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, God bless you. Thank you for coming and spending time with us on the show, sharing something of your success, but also being honest and say we've still a long way to go in some of these areas. Wendy Simpson, thank you.